Many years ago, in a small town filled with warmth and kindness, there was a woman named Sarah. She was a kind-hearted woman with a love for children, but unfortunately, she had never been able to have a child of her own. Sarah had always dreamed of being a mother, nurturing and caring for a child, but it seemed that life had different plans for her. Despite this, she remained hopeful. She spent her days working as a nurse, helping others, and showing love to every patient who walked through her door. One day, while volunteering at the local orphanage, Sarah's life took an unexpected turn. She was visiting the children, bringing them gifts and spending time with them, when she saw a young boy sitting quietly in a corner. His name was Michael. He was only 5 years old but had already experienced more pain than most people would in a lifetime. His parents had abandoned him, and he had been left alone in the world. He was a small, quiet child with sad eyes that seemed to carry the weight of the world. He had no family, no home, and no one to turn to. Sarah's heart broke when she saw him. She knew she couldn't just walk away from him. Something about Michael's eyes pulled at her heartstrings, and she felt a deep sense of responsibility for him. She approached him slowly, sitting down beside him, and offering him a gentle smile. Michael didn't speak at first, but Sarah didn't mind. She could tell that he was shy and unsure of who she was. But that day, something changed. Sarah and Michael shared a quiet moment together, and Sarah knew that her life was about to change forever. After that visit, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about Michael. She spent the following days praying and reflecting on the possibility of adopting him. She had never considered adoption before, but she felt a strong, undeniable pull toward this little boy who had been through so much. She knew that she had the love and the care to give him the family he deserved. With determination in her heart, Sarah began the adoption process. It wasn't easy. The paperwork was overwhelming, and the system moved slowly. But Sarah was patient and persistent. She knew that Michael needed her, and she was willing to fight for him. As the weeks turned into months, Sarah's bond with Michael grew. She spent more time at the orphanage, visiting him every day, bringing him small gifts and offering him reassurance. She would talk to him softly, telling him that everything was going to be okay. She promised him that one day he would have a family who would love him unconditionally. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Sarah received the call she had been waiting for. Michael had been officially placed into her care, and the adoption was finalized. The moment she picked him up from the orphanage, she knew there was no turning back. Michael was her son, and she was his mother. She held him in her arms and whispered softly, "You're safe now, sweetheart. I'll never let you go." From that day on, Michael's life began to change. He moved into Sarah's home, a small but cozy house filled with love. Sarah decorated his room with toys and bright colors, making sure he felt welcome and loved. Michael was quiet at first, unsure of his new life. He had been through so much already, and it was hard for him to trust again. But Sarah was patient, understanding, and always there for him. She reassured him with every hug and every kind word. Slowly, Michael started to open up. He began to smile again, and laughter returned to his eyes. Sarah watched with joy as he began to thrive in the warmth of his new home. Over the years, Sarah and Michael's relationship grew stronger. They shared everything: the highs and the lows, the good times and the bad. Michael became the son Sarah had always dreamed of, and Sarah became the mother he had longed for. Together, they built a life filled with love, laughter, and happiness. Michael went to school, made friends, and started to dream about his future. Sarah was there every step of the way, cheering him on and supporting him through everything. But even as they built their life together, Sarah never forgot the day she first met Michael. The moment their lives intertwined was one that she would carry with her forever. It was the beginning of a journey that would change both of their lives, a journey filled with love, hope, and the power of a mother's heart. Little did Sarah know, Michael would one day show her just how much her love had meant to him, and how far he would go to repay her for everything she had done. In this first part of their story, we see the beginning of an extraordinary bond. A woman, driven by love and compassion, reaches out to a child in need, and together they embark on a life-changing journey. This adoption would not only change Michael's life, but would also shape Sarah's in ways she never could have imagined. And as they began their new life together, their story was just beginning. The first few years after Michael was adopted were a whirlwind of change, new experiences, and emotional growth. Sarah watched her son with immense pride as he started to adjust to his new life. At first, Michael was cautious, unsure of what this new family meant for him. He had been through so much as a child: his abandonment, the long days spent in the orphanage, and the unfamiliar faces that had come and gone. Trusting again was not easy for him. But Sarah, with her endless patience and love, was determined to make him feel safe. She never gave up on him, no matter how difficult the road seemed. Michael's first day at his new school was one of the most difficult moments for both of them. Sarah walked him to the school gates, holding his hand tightly, reassuring him that everything would be all right. Michael, now 6 years old, was nervous. He had never been to a regular school, and the world outside of the orphanage was overwhelming. The other children were full of energy, while Michael stood shyly in the corner, clutching his backpack. Sarah bent down, cupping his face with her hands. "You can do this, sweetheart. I'm just a phone call away if you need me." Her words, though simple, were filled with love and warmth. She gave him a quick kiss on the forehead and watched as he walked into the school, turning back to wave one last time. It was a moment that filled her with both pride and sadness. She knew this was the first step toward Michael becoming independent, but it was hard to let go. That day marked the beginning of Michael's journey in the outside world. Sarah didn't know it yet, but she would soon see just how strong and resilient her son was becoming. As the weeks passed, Michael made friends, although it took time for him to feel comfortable. He kept to himself at first, playing alone at recess and avoiding too much interaction. But slowly, he started to open up. He smiled more, laughed more, and even began to participate in class. Sarah was there every step of the way, helping him with his homework, encouraging him to try new things, and always reminding him that he was loved and valued. As the years went by, Michael blossomed. He became more confident in his abilities and began to excel in school. He was particularly gifted in math and science, subjects that intrigued him deeply. Sarah encouraged his curiosity, taking him to science museums and working with him on projects at home. She often marveled at his ability to grasp difficult concepts with ease. But despite his growing intelligence, Michael never lost his humble and kind nature. He was always ready to lend a helping hand to others, especially those who struggled. His sense of empathy was a reflection of the love and support he had received from Sarah. As Michael entered his teenage years, the bond between him and Sarah only grew stronger. He was no longer the shy, quiet boy who had entered her life years ago. He was now a young man, filled with dreams and aspirations, but with his newfound confidence came new challenges. Adolescence was a time of change and exploration, and Michael, like most teenagers, began to test his boundaries. There were moments of rebellion, moments of frustration, and moments of confusion. But through it all, Sarah remained a steady presence in his life. She continued to offer her guidance, her love, and her unwavering belief in him. One particular moment stood out in Sarah's mind during Michael's teenage years. He had come home one afternoon after a difficult argument with a teacher. He was upset, his usual calm demeanor replaced by anger and frustration. At first, Sarah didn't know what to say. She could see the tension in his face, the way his hands trembled as he spoke. "They just don't get me, Mom," Michael exclaimed, pacing back and forth. "I'm trying so hard, but they don't understand." Sarah sat down on the couch and gestured for Michael to sit beside her. "I understand, sweetheart," she said softly, "but it's important to stay calm and think things through. You can't let your anger control you. Sometimes people don't see things the way we do, but that doesn't mean we can't rise above it." Michael looked at her, his eyes filled with frustration. But slowly, as he sat down next to her, he began to calm down. Sarah listened patiently as he poured out his feelings, never once interrupting. She knew that these moments were important. They weren't just about solving problems. They were about letting Michael know that his feelings mattered, that he could trust her to always listen. Over time, Michael matured, and his rebellious streak faded. He became more responsible, taking on part-time jobs and helping out around the house. He excelled in his studies, particularly in the subjects that had always fascinated him. Sarah's heart swelled with pride as she watched him grow into a thoughtful, hard-working young man. As high school came to a close, Michael made plans for his future. He had been accepted into a prestigious university, where he intended to study engineering. Sarah was overwhelmed with emotion. She knew this day would come, but she wasn't ready to let go. She had watched him grow from a frightened, abandoned child into a confident young man with a bright future ahead of him. Before he left for university, Michael sat down with Sarah one evening, just the two of them. He looked at her with gratitude in his eyes and said, "Thank you, Mom, for everything. You've given me more than I could ever repay." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she hugged him tightly. "You don't have to repay me, Michael. You're my son, and that's all I need." And with that, they both knew that their journey together was far from over. It had only just begun, and the love between them would continue to grow, no matter where life took them. In this part of their story, we witnessed the transformation of Michael from a quiet, uncertain child to a confident and capable young man. Sarah's unwavering love and support shaped him into the person he was becoming, and as they continued their journey together, they knew that their bond would only grow stronger with time. As the years passed, Michael grew into a remarkable young man. He had succeeded in school, excelled in his studies, and was now preparing to leave for college. His future was bright, and he had worked hard to get where he was. But little did Sarah know, life was about to present them with a challenge unlike anything they had faced before. It all began one chilly autumn evening when Michael came home after a long day at university. Sarah was in the kitchen preparing dinner, as she always did, when she noticed the troubled look on Michael's face. He walked into the living room, dropped his backpack by the door, and sat down on the couch with a sigh. "Michael, what's wrong?" Sarah asked, placing the spatula down and walking over to him. She had seen this look on his face before, a mixture of frustration and confusion, but she had never seen it so strong. Michael hesitated for a moment, then turned to face his mother. "I don't know how to say this, Mom," he began, his voice low. "But something happened today, and I'm not sure what to do with it." Sarah sat beside him, her heart heavy with concern. "You can tell me anything, sweetheart. What happened?" Michael took a deep breath before he spoke again. "I found out something about my past, something I never knew before. I've been doing some research, and I came across some old documents. It seems that I might not be your biological son." For a moment, Sarah felt as though the ground had been pulled out from under her. She stared at Michael, her mind racing. How could this be? How could he possibly find out something like this now, after all these years? She had adopted Michael when he was just a child, and she had raised him as her own, nurtured him, loved him, given him everything she had. To hear these words from him was both a shock and a heartbreak. "Michael, I don't understand. What are you saying?" She stammered, her voice trembling with emotion. "I found some adoption papers," Michael continued, his voice quieter now. "They were filed under my birth name. I don't know how I never noticed it before. I've always known I was adopted. But these papers, they show that my biological parents are different. I was abandoned when I was just a baby, and you took me in. You gave me a new life. But these documents, they show things I never knew." The room was silent for a long time. Sarah's heart ached as she processed Michael's words. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. It was true that Michael had been adopted, but to hear that his biological parents were out there somewhere, unknown to him, was something Sarah hadn't been prepared for. She thought back to the day she had first met Michael, the day she had decided to adopt him. It had been a choice made with love, without hesitation, and without a second thought. To her, Michael had always been her son, and nothing could change that. "I don't know what to say," Sarah finally said, her voice barely a whisper. "I know that you've always known you were adopted, but the past, it doesn't matter, Michael. You are my son. I raised you, I loved you, and nothing can change that. I may not be your biological mother, but I am your mother in every other way that matters." Michael sat there, his expression unreadable. The words Sarah spoke meant the world to him, but the revelation still weighed heavily on his heart. He had always known he was different, that he wasn't born into the same family as others. But to know that there were people out there, his biological parents, who had given him up, it left him with so many questions. Why had they abandoned him? Who were they? And what did it mean for his identity? "Mom, I know you've always been there for me," Michael said softly. "But this feels like a part of me is missing. I need to know more. I need to understand." Sarah nodded, her own heart heavy with empathy. She understood his need for answers, for closure, but she also knew that the truth was complicated. She had always been honest with Michael about his adoption, but this was different. This revelation opened up a world of unknowns, and it would take time to process and understand it fully. "I promise you, Michael," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the emotions swirling inside her. "We'll find the answers together. If it's important to you, we'll search for your biological parents. But no matter what we find, I want you to know that you are my son. You always have been, and you always will be." Tears welled up in Michael's eyes as he looked at Sarah. In that moment, he realized something deep within himself, that the love Sarah had given him, the care and support she had shown him throughout his life, was irreplaceable. No matter who his biological parents were, Sarah was the mother he needed, the one who had given him a future filled with love. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be more questions, more searching, and more emotional hurdles to overcome. But Michael knew, deep down, that no matter where this journey took him, he had a mother who would stand by him, just as she always had. In this turning point of their story, the revelation of Michael's biological parents set in motion a series of events that would lead to deeper self-discovery, but it also strengthened the bond between mother and son. Despite the uncertainty, they both knew that their love for each other was unbreakable. The months that followed Michael's revelation about his biological parents were filled with deep reflection. Despite the flood of questions and emotions surrounding the discovery, Michael never wavered in his love for Sarah. She had been the one to raise him, the one to provide him with a home, love, and everything he needed. He was determined to make sure that she knew how much she meant to him, how much her unwavering support and kindness had shaped him into the person he had become. Michael had always been a thoughtful and caring person, and over the years, Sarah had seen his character evolve in such beautiful ways. He had become someone who was kind to others, who worked hard, and who constantly gave back to those in need. But there was one thing that Michael had yet to do, something that had been on his mind ever since he discovered the truth about his past. He needed to find a way to repay Sarah for everything she had done for him, for the love she had given him when no one else had. As Michael began to build his life after college, he focused on his career and personal growth. He worked tirelessly, securing a position at a prestigious engineering firm, and started to make a name for himself in the field. But even as his professional life flourished, he never forgot the importance of his family, particularly Sarah. He knew that the time had come for him to do something meaningful, something that would show her just how much he appreciated her sacrifices. One evening, as Sarah sat in her cozy living room reading a book, Michael called her to ask if she could join him for dinner the following weekend. She agreed, never suspecting that this simple dinner would be the start of a heartwarming surprise. Michael had spent weeks preparing for this moment. He had planned every detail carefully, wanting everything to be perfect. When the weekend arrived, Sarah dressed casually and made her way to the restaurant that Michael had chosen. As she arrived, She was led to a private dining room where Michael was waiting. The room was beautifully decorated with candles, soft lighting, and flowers. Sarah smiled as she walked in, surprised at how thoughtful Michael had been in planning this evening. She knew he had always been a good son, but this felt special. "Mom, I'm so glad you could make it," Michael said, standing up and giving her a warm hug. He looked calm on the outside, but Sarah could sense that there was something more to this dinner than just a casual evening out. They sat down to eat, and Michael began to tell Sarah about the progress he had made in his career, the goals he was working toward, and how much he appreciated the values she had instilled in him over the years. As Sarah listened to him speak, her heart swelled with pride. She had always known that Michael would do great things, but hearing him express his gratitude in such a genuine and heartfelt way filled her with emotions. But then, as they finished their meal, Michael stood up and walked over to a nearby table where a small box sat. Sarah looked on, puzzled, as Michael returned to the table holding the box in his hands. "Mom, I've been thinking about this for a long time," he said softly. "I don't know if I'll ever be able to truly repay you for everything you've done for me. But I wanted to give you something that might show you just how much you mean to me." He opened the box slowly, revealing a small, beautiful pendant. It was a heart-shaped locket with a picture of the two of them inside, a mother and son, smiling and happy, their love evident in the photo. Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she looked at the locket, touched by the thoughtfulness of the gesture. "I know it's not much," Michael continued, his voice thick with emotion. "But every time you wear it, I want you to remember that you're the reason I'm who I am today. You gave me a home when I had none. You gave me love when I needed it most. You never gave up on me. And for that, I will be forever grateful." Sarah was overwhelmed with emotion. She had never expected this, but now that it was happening, she couldn't help but cry. She had given so much of herself to Michael over the years, and now, here he was, offering her the most precious gift he could think of, his love and gratitude. "Michael, you don't need to give me anything," she said, wiping away her tears. "You've already given me everything I could ever want. Your love, your kindness, your strength. That's all I could ever ask for." But Michael shook his head, his eyes filled with conviction. "No, Mom, you've given me everything. You've shown me how to love, how to be strong, and how to never give up. I'm here because of you, and I want you to know that I see everything you did for me. I won't ever forget it." As Sarah held the locket in her hand, she realized that this moment wasn't just about the gift Michael had given her. It was about the love they had shared throughout the years, the bond they had formed, and the unspoken understanding between them. She knew that no matter what the future held, Michael would always be her son, and she would always be there for him. Their journey together had been filled with both challenges and triumphs, but it was moments like these that made everything worthwhile. The evening ended with more hugs, laughter, and heartfelt conversation. Sarah left the restaurant that night with the locket around her neck, a symbol of the incredible love she had for her son and the amazing man he had become. As she walked back to her car, she realized that the greatest gift of all was the relationship they had built together, a relationship that no surprise, no material possession, could ever replace. In this final part of their story, Michael repays his mother in the most meaningful way, by giving her the gift of his love and gratitude. It's a reminder that the best way to show someone how much they mean to us is not through grand gestures, but through the simple, everyday acts of kindness and appreciation. Michael's gesture was a testament to the incredible bond they shared, and a promise that he would always carry the lessons she had taught him throughout his life.